What's going on, guys? Seth here from Team Union. Seth here as your coach of the Philadelphia Fearows for a brand new league that I am in. I actually kind of joined this league a little bit by accident. Not by accident. One of the guys I'm in another league with. Actually, I think I'm in two leagues with him anyway. But he asked me if I wanted to be the eighth person in a new league, and it's actually a 5th gen league, so it follows 5th gen rules. Only mons from 5th gen and below. So it's basically like playing 5th gen OU kind of. So it's really cool. I loved 5th gen. It's one of my favorite gens. It was actually the first. My first games were actually Pokemon Fire Red. I ended up getting 2 copies of those because I didn't want to mess up the one copy, and it was a whole ordeal of things. But I got a DS, and the first game I decided to buy was Pokemon White. So 5th gen, I kind of started my new Pokemon journey with that. So I was really excited to join this Gen 5 league. However, I don't know a whole lot about the Gen 5 meta, so I thought it'd be cool to experiment with it to see how it goes. Like I said, I love Gen 5, so I just kind of want to jump in and have fun with this one, so I don't expect to be too super competitive, but I do know a little bit of Gen 5, and we'll kind of get into that as we move forward. So, 8 teams. It was a snake draft, so the first pick in the first round was the last pick in the second round. Last pick in the first round was the first pick in the second round, so it flips every time. It was an open draft, so you get any mon in any tier at any time, so during any round. There were 5 tiers, 1 through 5, and then we had 400 free points to spend on 4 free mons. So the requirements, 2 tier 1 Pokemon to kind of make up for not having a Mega Pokemon, 2 tier 2s, 2 tier 3s, a tier 4, a tier 5, and then 4 free Pokemon for a total of 12. So we had 400 points, obviously, to spend on those 4 free Pokemon. So just depending on what you wanted to get, you could switch it up that way. So I know in Gen 5 that weather was like the main strategy. Weather was a huge staple of Gen 5. And I was thinking, hey, I think I had like the 6th pick or something like that. It wasn't the best pick. So I figured I wouldn't be able to get quality weather. Obviously, the main thing I was looking at was rain. I was also considering sand, but I saw that Sand Rush Excadrill is banned. I believe it's banned from Gen 5 OU, and I know for a fact it's banned from this league. So I was like, I don't really want to run sand. I mean, there's Stoutland with Sand Rush, but I don't really want to run sand without Sand Rush Excadrill. You could run Sand Force with like a Scarf, but that's just not as good. So I didn't really want to run sand. I was thinking about rain, but I figured that would be taken early, which it was. So I decided to just build a balanced team, just a solid balanced team that could function a little bit or maybe do something or have some kind of niche in each weather. So I just tried to build good synergy, build to my playstyle, so a little bit of Volt Turn, some bulky offense, things like that, and we would see how it turned out. So our first pick, I wanted to go with things that I was comfortable with first, especially in the higher tiers. So I decided to go with Landorus Therian. So now for the mons, I tried to use as many Gen 5 sprites as I could, just because I think they're cool, and it's a Gen 5 league, so I thought it made sense. So Landorus Therian, I've used it in a league before. I had decent success with it. I think it's really good. Obviously, it's really good. It can run Scarf. It can be bulky. It can do all kinds of stuff. So it has a good speed tier at base 91. It has a fantastic ability in Intimidate, which I think is really going to come in clutch. It has great bulk. As I mentioned, it can run physically defensive. It can even run Assault Vest if necessary. It gives me an electric immunity and a ground immunity. It can get hazards up, which is really important, especially in Gen 5, so it gets those Stealth Rock. It can set up with like Rock Polish and Swords Dance and even bulk up, and it gives me momentum with the U-turn. So checking off a lot of things on the checklist that I wanted just to be comfortable and kind of play my own little game, even in this new format. So like I'd mentioned, it gets Intimidate, great ability, will really help support the team throughout the season. Some standard moves, it gets Bulk Up, Earthquake. I know Explosion was kind of popular in the older gens. I think it's more popular in Gen 4, but I think it was still there a little bit in Gen 5. Rock Polish and Swords Dance for setup. Rock Slide and Stone Edge for those rock moves. Super Power for another coverage move. Stealth Rock, and then U-turn for momentum. So, moving on, my next mon, I wanted to pick up this mon because I wanted more bulk, and I really wanted to prioritize hazards and make sure I could get good hazard setters. So I decided to go with Ferrothorn. Now, I'm very comfortable with Ferrothorn. I've used it a lot on Showdown in OU, and I believe I had it one season in a league I was in. So I'm pretty comfortable with it. I know how it works, and it works in a very similar manner in Gen 5, I know that. And it gets some good stuff that will help me a lot in Gen 5. So it has dual hazards, Stealth Rock, and spikes. It has really, really good bulk. It has really good physical bulk, and actually some pretty decent special bulk as well. And it has great utility. So things like Leech Seed, Thunder Wave, knock off if necessary. I know it's not buffed until Gen 6. However, it can still potentially knock off some items, which would be cool. Iron Barb, so if it gets hit with a physical attack, it can damage the opponent a little bit, and then anticipation, not really going to be run, but it can, let me know if something's there. Its standard moves, I know it does run Bullet Seed a little bit occasionally in Gen 5. It's got Explosion, again, I just decided to throw that up there. Giga Drain, Gyro Ball, Iron Head, for some stab, Leech Seed, Poison Jab, Power Whip, Seed Bomb, Shadow Claw, Spikes, and Stealth Rock, Swords Dance potentially for some setup, and then even the Thunder Wave, which is really good for some speed control. So the next mon I wanted to go with, I know something I do know about Gen 5, other than that weather dominated, was that dragons also dominated. Now fairies were put into the game in Gen 6. One of the reasons, I'm not sure if this is an actual reason, but a lot of competitive players believe it is, was because that dragons ran rampant in Gen 5. With the addition of things like Hydreigon and Haxorus in Gen 5, dragons were crazy. Even old things like Salamence and Dragonite and Garchomp, they were just really, really good, and I knew that I needed a dragon on my team. Sorry, I'm not sure if I cut out there or not, but anyway, I decided to go with Kyurem. I tried to get in Tier 1 things like Salamence or Dragonite, but they just went too early on. I wasn't able to pick them up. Garchomp even. I wasn't able to get them, snag them when I wanted to, so I did decide to go into Tier 2 and grab the Kyurem. Now, Kyurem's still a really good dragon. It has a good speed tier at 95. And it has a fantastic special attack stat. Not to mention, it is also an ice type, so it has a little bit of a leg up on the other dragon types, hitting them with ice moves, which are quite effective on most of them. So that's really, really cool. It gets pressure as its ability, so I can potentially pressure stall or, get out some of those extreme speed. I'm not sure why my mic keeps doing this. Anyway, moving on. Some moves it gets. Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse. So if I don't want to lock myself in or if I don't want to get the drop from Draco, I can Dragon Pulse. I have Earth Power, Flash Cannon, Focus Blast, Ice Beam, Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Signal Beam. All good coverage moves, and then Roost potentially if I want to run maybe a bulkier set and heal off some damage. Now the next mon, I was playing around with some mons from Gen 5, playing a little Gen 5 OU, and this is a mon that I'm very comfortable with. I have been comfortable with in seasons of League, on General Showdown, and I think it was really good in Gen 5 as well, especially with the weather a little bit. So I decided to pick up Reuniclus. Now, Reuniclus has fantastic bulk on both the physical and special sides, as well as HP, especially in HP. It has some great abilities, which we'll go over in a second, and it gets set up in Calm Mind. So, onto its abilities. Overcoat's not really going to be used. Magic Guard and Regenerator are really the key factors here. Now, Magic Guard means this thing can't be toxic, it doesn't take entry hazard damage, or it doesn't take status damage, it doesn't take entry hazard damage, which is really, really, really nice. Regenerator heals back a third of its HP every time it switches out. So, two really solid abilities. Magic Guard can really help when you're setting up or when you're looking to set up. Regenerator can help it be more of a pivot and not have to rely on its recovery move. It can kind of recover just by switching, which is really awesome. So, on to its moves. It gets Calm Mind, like I had mentioned, for setup. Can also run Trick Room. So, a really good Trick Room user. Could definitely come in handy, especially with potential Sand or Rain teams. Could definitely come in handy facing those. Energy Ball, Flash Cannon, Focus Blast, Grass Knot, Psychic, Psyshock, Shadow Ball, Signal Beam for a bunch of coverage. So, good coverage there. Gets Recover for a reliable recovery, and Thunder Wave to potentially slow some things down if I don't want to run Trick Room and turn their speed around on them. So, the next mon I wanted to run gives me more momentum. As you guys know, I love momentum. I love Volt Turn. And it's very fast, which is something my team was lacking up to this point. So I decided to go with Raikou. Now, Raikou has been a little bit power crept in in these last few generations, Gen 7 and Gen 6. However, in Gen 5, it was still really, really good. It's really strong. I was actually using it on the Gen 5 OU ladder, and it just OHKO'd a bunch of different stuff. Like, this thing is really strong, and I was really happy that I was able to grab it as a free pick in the 5th round. I thought that was a little bit late to get it, actually. I was surprised it lasted up until here, but it has an excellent speed tier at 115, gives me Volt Switch for momentum, it can even set up with Calm Mind, and it does have some pretty good type coverage. So it also gets pressure, so I could potentially like sub-Toxic Protect, Pressure Stall, something like that. I know Suicune does that this gen a little bit, so potentially could do that with Raikou as well, but you know, probably not too often, if at all. Some moves it gets the Aura Sphere, Calm Mind for setup, Extra Sentry, Signal Beam, Substitute, like I mentioned, Thunderbolt and Volt Switch, and then Thunder Wave to slow teams down. So not a ton of coverage, but it has pretty decent coverage. You can also run Hidden Power, HPI specifically for those dragons. So definitely looking forward to using this thing pretty well. So the next mod I decided to pick up, I wanted a Fire type. I wanted something strong, and I wanted to. I didn't spend too much time jumping around in the tiers. I kind of went pretty straightforward, going down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was a little bit of mixing in there. Oh, sorry, excuse me. There was a little bit of mixing it up in there, but I really just kind of wanted to go with the flow, try to get some good mons that I like, that I enjoy using. And this next mon is a mon that I've enjoyed a lot in League format, and it is actually Emboar. Now, Emboar in this gen, in 7th gen, is pretty good, and I think it's very underrated. I'm not exactly sure how good it was in 5th gen. Now, it doesn't get Sucker Punch in the gen, which kind of sucks. I don't believe it gets Sucker Punch. Let me double check. Because I'm pretty sure I just checked that, and I went to look for it, and I'm like, oh snap, it actually doesn't get Sucker Punch. Yeah, it doesn't get Sucker Punch. However, it does get some other cool things. So it has a great offensive typing in Fire and Fighting. It has some good bulk, so it could potentially be a really good bulky attacker. And it gets some really, really strong, powerful attacks. So, moving on for its abilities. It gets Blaze and Reckless. Blaze, if you're under a quarter, I believe it is, might be a third. Its fire type moves gets a boost. Reckless is a really good ability for Emboar because its recoil moves do 1.2, I believe it is. Yeah, 1.2 times damage. It's for its moves. It gets a lot of good coverage. It gets a lot of good moves. Bulk Up for potential setup, which is really, really nice, especially getting it that defense boost. Earthquake, Fire Punch, Flame Charge can boost its speed. Flamethrower, so it can run some special sets. Flare Blitz, Focus Blast, Grass Knot, Hammer Arm, Head Smash, Heavy Slam, Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Super Power, Thunder Punch, and Wild Charge. I originally had put Scald on here. I'm not sure why it's not on here, but it also does get Scald, which is pretty cool. So it gets some water coverage and can potentially get some burns. So Emboar is really cool. I was really happy with this pick and really glad I was able to snag it. Now, this next mon I was looking at the entire draft. I knew I wanted it. I was waiting for the round that it wouldn't be too early to get it. And that mon is Blastoise. Blastoise I really like for a couple of different reasons. It's a bulky water type, and it gets Rain Dish. So we'll move on to that in a second, but it also gets Rapid Spin. So it gets hazard removal, it gets Rapid Spin. So Defog doesn't remove hazards in Gen 5, so Rapid Spinners are that much more important, and Blastoise, in my opinion, is one of the best Rapid Spinners in the format. So I'm really excited to use this thing. Like I said, we're going to move on to its abilities. It gets Torrent, but more importantly, it gets Rain Dish. So going up against a potential Rain team, Rain Dish is going to be really nice. So I could run like Rain Dish and Leftovers. That's a lot of recovery each turn, especially considering Blastoise doesn't get any reliable recovery. So I thought that was a cool tech, a little bit of a niche that could be used against the Rain team. Like I said, I wanted to try to have something for each type of weather if I could. I didn't exactly hit that, but it's not the end of the world. I did have a little something, and this thing can really help in those Rain matchups. So moving on to its abilities, it gets priority in Aqua Jet. It gets Flash Cannon, Focus Blast, Haze, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Rapid Spin, Roar, Scald, Signal Beam, Surf, and Toxic. So gets some phasing as well, so it can roar out potential setup sweepers. Like I had said before, it gets Rapid Spin, getting rid of those hazards. Scald, potentially getting some burns. Toxic to stall out some mons. Just some cool coverage and some cool moves in general. So the next mon I picked up, I wanted another ground immunity to support my team. I had 2 mons that were weak to ground and only 1 immunity and no resistances. So I did want another ground immunity. and I also wanted another bulkier Mon, so I decided to pick up Weezing. Now, at the time I drafted, I didn't know it didn't get Toxic Spikes in Gen 5, so I did recently find that out, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Weezing still has great physical bulk and gives me that ground immunity, so it uses that Levitate ability to give me that. For some of its moves, it gets Clear Smog to potentially Clear Smog and Haze to prevent my opponent from setting up. It gets Destiny Bond, which could be really cool. Memento for utility, Taunt and Toxic and Will-O-Wisp, as well as Pain Split, so it gets really good utility options. Explosion if I want to end up going that route. Flamethrower, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, and Thunderbolt are really cool coverage, so I could definitely use those pretty well. So I was really excited that I got Weezing. I think it's going to be a really clutch Mon, especially with some real big threats in this meta. So I'm really excited to have this thing bulk some hits and potentially be exploding on some people. So I'm hyped for that. The next Mon, I've really wanted to use in different leagues, and I don't believe I've ever gotten the chance to get it. Maybe once, but I definitely didn't complete that league. So it might have been the ISL. I'm not sure, but whatever it was, this Mon, I was looking for more speed. I was lacking a little bit of speed on the team, and I also wanted more momentum. So I did decide to go with Sirot Ark. Now, I think Sirot Ark's really cool. It has a great speed tier at 105. It gives me momentum in U-turn, and it has a really good special attack stat. So it gets the ability Illusion, which, if you guys don't know, you can disguise it as any whichever Pokemon is in the back of your party. So this could definitely play some mind games, not only in building, but not only in the match itself, but in team building as well. So my opponent has to be aware of that Sirot Ark, and even if I don't bring it, they still kind of have to prep for it. So it gives me that option, and if I do bring it, they have to figure out what I'm going to disguise it as. So really cool Mon, and I really like it. So I could potentially, Scarf this thing with U-turn and bait a Scarf Lando, right? So I could put Landorus in the back of my party, bait a Scarf Lando, and then end up having like a defensive Landorus or a setup Landorus or something like that. So definitely a cool Mon to have. Some of its moves include Agility, Combine, and Nasty Plot to set up. It also gets tricks, so I could trick a Scarf or like a Specs or Band even. Memento's pretty cool because it's pretty fast. Dark Pulse, Extra Sensory, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, Grass Knot, Shadow Ball for coverage. It gets Pursuit, which could be cool. Sucker Punch for priority, and then U-turn for that momentum, like I had mentioned. It also has some decent physical moves that could potentially be run physical. I decided not to include that because you're just mostly going to see it special, but it's definitely an option to run it physically. Now the next Mon I got, I wanted more hazards. So the last Mon I picked with hazards, I had Landorus Therian and I had Ferrothorn. Nothing else gets hazards, and I wanted a little bit more of that. And I also wanted a Steel type to help, another Steel type to help with them dragons. So I decided to pick up Registeel. So it gives me fantastic bulk, really nice bulk, and it gives me those Stealth Rocks as well. So I was pretty happy with this thing. I know it's pretty passive, but it is a quality Mon just for what's in this generation. It gets abilities such as Clear Body and Light Metal, so Clear Body is really what you're going to see being run. And then its moves include things like Earthquake, Explosion's pretty fun, Flash Cannon, Focus Blast if I want to go special, Hammer Arm, Hone Claws even potentially, Ice Punch, Iron Head, Rock Polish to potentially set up, Rock Slide, Seismic Toss if I want to run a more defensive set, Shadow Claw, Stealth Rocks like I said before, Superpower, Thunderbolt, Thunder Punch. It even gets Thunder Wave and Toxic for some different utility options. So I was really happy with the Registeel pick. I was able to get some more bulk, and while it doesn't have reliable recovery, it's still a really bulky Mon, and leftovers will help it a lot. So I'm looking forward to use this thing definitely. So the next Mon I picked up, again, I was looking for more hazards, and I wanted something around base 100 speed. Now I had a few things over base 100 at this point, and I had a few things under base 100 at this point, but I really wanted that one Mon with base 100 speed, and that Mon was Miltank. So I picked up Miltank. I think Miltank is a really quality low-tier Mon in any format, in singles, in league format, in any generation. I think it's just a very quality Mon. It has great bulk on both sides. It has a good speed tier at base 100. It has really good abilities, which we'll go over in a second. It gives me another hazard setter, so it gives me more Stealth Rocks. Reliable recovery and Milk Drink. It gives me a Cleric and Heal Bell, and it does even have great type coverage. So Miltank can do a ton of different things. It can be bulky, it can be offensive. Like I said, it can be a Cleric. It can do a ton of different things. So I'm really happy with this thing. I'm really happy I was able to snag it in the second to last round. So moving on to its abilities, 3 really, really nice abilities. Thick Fat, giving it a resistance to fire and ice type moves. Scrappy, giving it the ability to hit ghost types with normal moves. And Sap Sipper, giving me a grass immunity. So really cool abilities. Really, really cool abilities for sure. I'm definitely happy I was able to pick this mon up and snag it, especially so late. So some of its moves, Body Slam and Double Edge and Facade for that that stab, that really powerful stab. Body Slam can potentially paralyze. Gets Earthquake, Fire Punch, Hammer Arm, Ice Punch, Iron Head, Rock Slide, and T-Punch, Thunder Punch for those coverage moves. Like I said, it gets Heal Bell as well as Milk Drink for recovery, Stealth Rock, and even Thunder Wave. So some really cool options. This thing is very versatile, and that's definitely what I look for in a lot of the mons I like to draft, is versatility. So I'm really excited to see what this thing's going to do and how it's going to work this season. So my final pick in the draft, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted. There wasn't any glaring weaknesses or anything I really thought I needed. A middle of the road speed tier, so like between 80 and 90 was nice, would have been nice for this, and that's what I did end up getting. And I also decided that I wanted a little bit of a faster fighting type, in case I didn't want to bring Emboar every week or it didn't have the best of matchups. So I did decide to go with Sawk, and I believe this thing was in tier 5. It might have been tier 4. It was one of those, but either way, it was a lower tier mon. It was a quality pick. Has a good speed tier at 85. It does get set up and bulk up in Swords Dance, and it has pretty good type coverage. So its abilities, it gets sturdy, so I know it can live any one hit if necessary. Inner Focus, preventing it from being flinched, and the big one is Mold Breaker. So definitely be on the lookout for some Scarf Mold Breaker sets. This thing could be really, really nice, and I'm really excited to have it on the team. Some moves it does get, I mentioned Bulk Up. I might not get Swords Dance, that might have been another mon I was looking at. But anyway, it gets set up in Bulk Up, gets coverage moves in close combat, Earthquake, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Poison Jab, Rock Slide, and Stone Edge, and it even gets Taunt for a little bit of utility there. So that is the draft. Let me know what you guys think, again, with the Gen 5 sprites. I think they look really cool and really funny sometimes. But this is the team. Just to recap, we have the Landorus Therian, Ferrothorn, Kyurem, Reuniclus, Raikou, Emboar, Blastoise, Weezing, Sirot Ark, Registeel, Miltank, and Sawk. So, really cool mons. I'm really excited for this league. Like I said, I kind of was not thrown into it, but I did accept it a little bit at the last minute. Like 30 minutes after I joined the Discord server, they threw me into the draft. So, I didn't get a whole lot of time to study up, but I do feel like we picked a pretty decent team, and I'm really excited to use it and see how this works out. I am taking this league a little less seriously. I'm still going to prep hard. If you guys know me, you know I'm super competitive, so I don't like to lose. But I do want to have some fun with this one. I want to come up with some creative stuff and see how we do. I just thought it would be a good experience to get to use and play in different formats and just do as much as I can. So that's it for this one. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Instagram at Team Union Seth, same thing for Twitter, and then Facebook Team Union Seth. On Instagram and Facebook, I've been doing these. Excuse me. I've been doing a couple different things. Pokemon analyses. So I take a different Pokemon every couple of days and I analyze it. So basically how it does in league format, what it's good at, what it's not so good at, and then my overall thoughts. I do that on Instagram and Facebook, as well as just some draft league tips. Currently, the draft league tips are on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm probably going to start bringing those to Twitter as well as I am in a lot of different Twitter threads. I'm on there tweeting and replying and doing all kinds of stuff on there. So definitely make sure you hit me up on social media. Other than that, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.